Academica Media. You are listening to Charter School Superstars, bringing you the voices of an education revolution.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Ryan Kairalla. Our guest this week on the program is the head coach of the Doral Academy Charter School boys soccer team in Doral, Florida. On March 6th, the Doral Academy team won the Class 6A Florida State Soccer Championships, and our guest became the first female coach to win a Florida State title for boys soccer. In addition to her successful coaching career, our guest has also excelled as a player, having competed for the Scottish national team for 4 years and having made 2 Final Four appearances as an All-American college athlete. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting www.doralacademyprep.org. We are happy to welcome Pamela McDonald onto Charter School Superstars. Hey, Coach.
Hi, good morning. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Pleasure to have you here. My goodness, in the presence of a champion. Congratulations to you and congratulations to your boys. Walk us through what the last few days have been like. Have you come down from the high yet? Are the kids still excited?
Yeah, of course, the kids are still excited. I think we'll continue to be excited that we finally got the state championship they've been striving for the last, many years for me and the last 4 years for most of these guys. So to finally win that state championship and be rewarded for the hard work, I think we'll be in a high for quite a while.
That's right, because this state championship wasn't an overnight thing. You've been working with this boys program for a long time. You've gotten close a few years, a few regional titles, a few playoff appearances, and this year was the year you guys finally pulled it off.
Yes, some of these guys have been with the program since middle school, and obviously the whole COVID experience, we didn't even know if we were going to complete a season, so it was a very weird year for everyone. So to win it this year makes it extra special, and just to see these guys in that final game, the delight and unbelievable scenes at the end when the referee was ready to blow the whistle. Words can't explain it, but I think when you see the videos of the celebrations, everybody can feel what we actually went through.
Oh, and I have seen those videos because your principal, Carlos Ferral, is one of my favorite people in education, is amazing with social media. And so I found out about that state championship right away because he put it up on social media. I got to see the kids celebrating. I got to see you celebrating. It warmed my heart. And as you noted, Coach, this has been a season of overcoming adversity and breaking barriers for your team. But that's something that you're no stranger to, as recently demonstrated by the fact that you are the first female coach in the state of Florida to win a state title for boys soccer. Talk about what that has been like for you. I know you've said in the past that when you first took over as the coach of the boys team, people wouldn't even recognize you as the coach when you were on the pitch during matches. How did that work for you?
Obviously, you've been faced with a lot of adversity as a kid, with the same aspect. You're a woman in a man's world. For me, it started really young when I was in elementary school, and I was the only female playing soccer with a bunch of guys, and a lot of people telling me that you would never make anything in soccer because females don't play soccer, and that was my passion, and I had no other passion apart from soccer. And I finally broke through and found a women's team, but that was at the age of 14. And so I just played with guys and grew up with the boys playing, and that was my dream. And obviously there wasn't a professional career for women at that point to become, to get paid for soccer. And I finally broke in to the national team, and then that's when windows started opening when I seen that there was that you could go to America and get scholarships, and that was my dream. So I actually had to give up playing for the national team in order to come to the United States because I got offered a scholarship to play at Barry University, and so that was a huge decision for me because the national team coach actually sat me down and asked me if I would reconsider my decision, because she said I was an integral part of the next World Cup competing team. And
Wow.
but I had an offer of $38,000 a year to go to Barry compared to not getting paid at all for Scotland. Obviously, it's a huge honour, but my dream was always to get a scholarship and become a physical education teacher. And I found a university that provided me with both. And so I couldn't knock back that opportunity, and I decided to go for it. So yeah, I've faced adversity for a long time, but in the game of high school, yeah, a lot of coaches and referees would walk past me in the field and ask me who's the head coach. And it took a long time. It took many years of building a reputation, and they saw that I knew what I was talking about, and they knew I had stuff. And then obviously you start getting results year after year, and the coaches realize you're their equivalent. You're their equivalent.
I have a suspicion that after this season, everybody's going to know who the head coach of the Doral Academy team is because of what you've been able to accomplish with these kids this year and what you've been able to accomplish all these years in the past. How did the charter school sort of set this up for you? I mean, knowing the folks at Doral Academy, they must have been just very supportive of the idea of having a woman coach coaching the boys team. Did they come to you with this idea? Did you come to them?
Yeah, it was actually them that came to me. The current assistant principal, Danny Gonzalez, was the athletic director at the time. And I had just left college, came here in 2003. Bernie Montero was the principal at the time that hired me. And I was the girls coach for 4 years. And I was a little bit, disillusioned with the standard. And the athletic director suggested, why don't you coach the guys? And I said, well, I would be more than willing to do that. Is that allowed? And he's like, of course. If you're qualified, which you are, then I'm happy, and the school's happy for you to go in that direction. And so, yeah, that was huge for somebody to believe in me and give me the go ahead to go coach the guys. And then obviously it's just getting their respect. And once they realize that you are, you want their best interests, and that you're trying to get them scholarships after they graduate, and that you're pushing them to their limits. And I don't think there's a more disciplined coach than myself. And they get that what you're trying to do with the program, and they want to work for you. And I think that's the key. I really enjoy working with the guys. They're very straightforward. When it's time to work, it's time to work. We also have fun, but everything's very competitive, and they realize that the benefits you're going to get out of being disciplined and in the best shape that you can possibly be.
Wow. Yeah. So you sound like you're one of those hard driving coaches. You want the best conditioning out of your kids. And I would imagine in a sport like soccer, where I've read that you can run several miles in the span of one match, you've really got to make sure you're conditioned.
Yeah. I mean, these guys need to last for 80 minutes, and I know that nobody loves running, especially the amount of running that we do. But I'm like, if you want to last 80 minutes, you got to put in the work. When I was at Barry University, I had a coach that had the exact same philosophy. We're not going to lose because something that we can't control. So fitness is definitely something that you can control. And he used to push us every single day. We're even puking in practice sometimes.
Wow.
And you realize the benefits as a player. And so when you go to become a coach, that was one of the big things that I instill. And it pays off year by year. We went to 4 overtimes this year. And every single overtime we won because we were in the better shape. Like, there was guys in the other team on the floor cramping, sub after substitution. And my guys looked like they could play another 20 minutes after the overtime. So it pays off, and they realize that.
Outstanding. I want to circle back to something you said earlier about the differences, the obvious differences between, boys and as the players than you as a woman coach. But to me, that's not the only difference between you and your students that I find really fascinating about the Doral Academy team. I'm also kind of really interested in the cultural diversity that exists on this team. So you are from Scotland, and many of your students are from all over the world. Doral Academy is in South Florida. It brings in first and second generation students from all across Latin America, Cuba, Venezuela, and all throughout that part of the world. And so it must be a really exciting cultural experience to bring all these different students together and to have them all play soccer together. Can you reflect on what I'm sure is a really cool experience?
I mean, right from the get-go, that was one of the big things that attracted me to Miami and staying here after I graduated, was the fact that, I grew up in Scotland where if you had 30 students in a class, they were all Scottish. There was no diversity. So when I came to Miami, and it's a multicultural part of the world, and you experience every culture, for me, that was a beautiful thing. And then obviously when you start coaching these kids that are from Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, first of all, they got to learn my language, which is, they used to ask me, what is your language? No, it's English, but I just have an accent. And they quickly get used to you, and vice versa. There was, at the beginning of coaching the guys, I think the biggest thing culturally wise was the dads of the Latin parents. At first, they were very, what's the word? Not so keen that their kids were being coached by a woman, to say it nicely. And so it was probably winning those people over. And then I remember there was one particular kid, Christian Udios, back in the day, where his father was very, he wasn't a fan of me at the beginning, just I think purely because I was a woman. And then I ended up getting his kid a scholarship to go to Barry University. And he couldn't thank me enough at the end. And, we experienced Christian playing there for 4 years, and he went to senior night, and I was also invited for senior night to walk out. So, it's been a learning experience for everyone, I think, involved. But as I said before, once the parents and the kids realize that you have their best interests at heart and you want the same as the parents do, then you quickly gain their respect.
That's fantastic. It's one of my favorite things about sports is how it brings people together, how it unifies so many different cultures and nationalities under a single idea, under a single goal. And the experience with the Doral Academy soccer team is just one more incredible example of that. And that's why I think it's so important to encourage sports in the K-12 environment. And so I want to expand this conversation to charter schools generally, because I can tell you, Coach, in my experience with charter schools, I think the biggest challenge they often have once they get their program up and running, once they start to develop some stability in that school and have some academic excellence, building the athletic program can be a little challenging because charter schools tend to have limited resources. They tend to focus a lot on the academics. And, Doral Academy is kind of a rarity in that it is a charter school that has a really impressive athletic program pretty much across all sports. And so I know for a lot of the charter schools listening right now, a lot of the charter school leaders listening to this program, they would probably love to have a program like Doral Academies that's winning state championships, that's creating this dynamic environment where students and parents and coaches can come together and really create positive outcomes for kids on and off the field. Do you have any advice for those school leaders out there on how they can achieve athletic excellence at a charter school? What does it take for a charter school to get to that point?
I mean, Mr. Ferraz and Mr. Rodriguez have been key in building the academic, everything in terms of the resources that we have. I compare us even bigger, for example, than Gulliver. Gulliver's a private school that costs a lot of money for parents to send their kids there. And when we built the AstroTurf field, and we have a gym, a weight room, a strength and conditioning coach, that really took our program to another level. And I'm really thankful for, our principals and all the people involved for getting us there, because now we are able to compete with the big schools, whether it be private or public. And I think once Mr. Rodriguez was there at the beginning, we got to the level of academic standards. He was always remember he had meetings with the coaches saying that was his goal also for the athletic program. And then Mr. Ferrazes came in behind and backed him 100%. The key is for our school is we have principals and administration that are really supportive of athletics and being involved in athletics, and so they realize the importance of students to get both in life. I think if you have both, it prepares you much better for continued education and basically for life. That athletics teaches you so many things about life and making good decisions, and that's what we're enabling our students to do here.
I can only imagine how much you've positively impacted the life of these kids. Not just the kids you've coached this year, who I imagine now have memories that they're going to carry for the rest of their life and championship rings that they'll have on their fingers, but all the students that you've worked with, boys and girls alike, over your decade and a half in high school coaching, all the lives you've positively enriched, all the great values that you've taught. You must get a lot of satisfaction out of what you do. Am I being presumptuous when I say that this is the most enriching experience you've had in soccer, knowing full well that you've competed for a national team, you've played in Final Fours? Is this on the top of the list, working with kids like this?
Yes, I mean I've been asked to coach college teams before, and people were maybe. They wonder why I'm still in high school coaching, but for me, I love it. This is my passion. And why change something when you're really happy? It's not always greener on the other side. And for me, being at Doral, it continues to grow as an institution and athletically. And then the students at Doral Academy are beautiful people, and they continue to be a part of my life. I had so many messages from alumni, females that graduated in 2008, all the way until last year. The amount of messages and support that I got saying, "Coach, nobody deserves it more than you. I'm so happy for you." And then you walk out of the Spectrum Stadium at D-Land, and then you see alumni that graduated in 2013, and they drove 4 hours to go watch their former high school in a state championship. I mean, that's amazing. So for me, that's the rewards that I get.
It is amazing. And you can be assured that everyone here at Academica Media is really happy for you too. This is so cool. Congratulations again to you and your boys. Before we let you go, Coach, one last question. Before I know you're already going to start getting to work on your next state championship. I know the work already begins as soon as the prior season is over. But one last question for you. If with the snap of your fingers, you could make any change to the education system, what change would it be?
I mean, obviously you want to get paid a little more for what you do. That's definitely a plus. For Doral Academy, I mean, for me, we prepare our kids so well. I mean, I've worked in public school systems previously too. And for me, and we have a comparison of Ronald Reagan, for example. But our kids are really prepared when they leave the Doral Academy. And we used to, send our kids to just Miami-Dade, FIU, local schools. And then when you see the senior pictures here and all the different schools that they're going to nationally, I think we're doing a really good job academically as well as athletically. So in terms of our school, I don't know if there's always room for improvement, but I think we do a really good job of preparing our schools for the next step in their lives.
Oh, I couldn't agree with that more. I've had quite a few teachers and students from Doral Academy on this program, and I never cease to be amazed by what's going on at this school, how it's grown, how it's excelled, how it's prepared so many students either academically or athletically for wonderful futures ahead. Pamela McDonald, everybody, you can find out more about her work by visiting www.doralacademyprep.org. Thank you so much for being on the show this week.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And thank you all for listening to Charter School Superstars.
The views expressed on the preceding program have been those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Academica, its clients, staff, affiliates, or advertisers.